I hit the floor. No warning. No time to react. Just impact. My head slammed hard against the tile, a sharp crack that echoed louder in my skull than it did in the room. For a second, I thought maybe I'd just slipped. Maybe I'd tripped over nothing like an idiot. But then, I tried to move, and nothing happened. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My arms, I tried to say it out loud, but the words came out wrong, slurred, heavy, like my mouth didn't belong to me anymore. Have you ever tried to move your body and it just doesn't listen? That's when the panic hit, fast, cold, immediate. My fingers twitched, barely. My left side felt like it wasn't even there, like it had been erased. Mom. I tried again, my voice thin. I'm barely reaching past my own lips. She was right there, standing in the doorway. For a second, just a second, I thought everything would be okay. She'd see me. She'd realize something was wrong. She'd rush over, grab her phone, call for help. That's what moms do, right? But she didn't move. Instead, she sighed, actually sighed. Sophia, seriously, she said, already sounding annoyed. I don't have time for this today. I blinked up at her, my vision blurring at the edges. I couldn't even process what she was saying. I can't, I tried again. Stop faking. Those two words hit harder than the fall. Stop. Faking. Faking? My body was on the floor. My arm wouldn't move. My face felt wrong. And she thought I was pretending? I tried to push myself up again. Nothing. Just a weak, useless shift of my shoulder that collapsed instantly. Mom? It came out more like a breath than a word. She didn't come closer. She stepped forward. 911, what's your emergency? Her voice sounded calm. Too calm. I tried to answer, but what came out didn't sound like words. My tongue felt thick, heavy, like it didn't know how to move anymore. Ma'am, I'm having trouble understanding you. Are you safe? Safe? I didn't even know what that meant anymore. Can't move. The sentence broke apart as it left my mouth. Each word slurred, uneven. There was a pause on the line, but not the kind that felt empty. The kind where someone is listening very carefully. Okay, she said, her tone shifting slightly, more focused now. I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions, all right? Mine, can you make a sound for yes? I forced out a small, Good. Are you alone? Can you tell me your name? Soph? It came out wrong again. Twisted, but she caught enough. Okay, Sophia, stay with me. I'm sending help right now. Right now? Those two words should have made me feel better, but they didn't, because my vision was fading. Dark spots crept in from the edges, slowly swallowing everything. The ceiling above me warped, bending like it was melting. Stay awake. You have to stay awake. Can you move at all? She asked. My hand, I whispered. All right, that's okay. You're doing really well. Just keep breathing for me, okay? Breathing suddenly felt complicated, like I had to think about it. In, out, in. My chest hitched. Out, too slow. Everything was too slow. When the phone slipped slightly from my grip, tapping against the tile. Stay with me, Sophia. I need you to stay with me. I wanted to laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because I didn't know how. Stay with her? I could barely stay with myself. A faint sound reached my ears. Distant. Faint. Was that sirens, or was I imagining it? Do you hear that? The operator asked, almost like she could hear it too. That's for you. For me. That thought barely registered before another wave of dizziness hit. My fingers twitched, then stopped. My arm felt heavier. Worse. Keep your eyes open if you can, Sophia. I tried. I really did. But the room kept slipping away. The edges darkened further, closing in like a tunnel. I blinked once, twice, and then a loud crash. The front door splintering. My boots against the floor. Voices. EMS! Over here. Hands suddenly everywhere. lifting me, turning me, checking things I couldn't feel. She's barely responsive. How long was she down? Unknown. Possible neurological, get her on the stretcher now. The words blurred together, overlapping like noise underwater. Someone touched my face. Hey, can you hear me? Sophia, right? I tried to nod. I don't know if I actually did. Stay with us. You're okay. Okay. That word again. Did they know something I didn't? Straps tightened across my body as they lifted me. The ceiling disappeared above me as they carried me out. The sunlight hit my eyes. Too bright, too sharp. I winced, or at least I think I did. Everything felt delayed, disconnected, like my brain and body weren't talking anymore. They slid me into the ambulance. More voices, more movement. BP dropping slightly. Left side weakness confirmed. We need to move. The doors slammed shut, and then sirens, loud this time, close, real. The vehicle lurched forward. I felt it, but barely. Stay with me, Sophia, someone said again, closer now. A paramedic. Young, focused. Can you squeeze my hand? I tried. Nothing. Or maybe something? I think she's trying, he said to someone else. Trying. That's all I could do. Try. My eyes fluttered again. The lights above me flickered with every bump in the road. Hey, the paramedic said, softer this time. You did the right thing calling us. Did I? I almost didn't make it. If I hadn't reached the phone, if I had passed out just a little sooner. A thought cut through everything else. Sharp, clear. Was what if no one had come? My chest tightened again. Not from whatever was happening to my body, but from something else entirely. The realization. She left me. She saw me on the floor. And she left anyway. The siren wailed louder as the ambulance sped forward. The paramedic kept talking, but his voice started to fade. Everything started to fade. The lights, the noise, the feeling. Until there was almost nothing left. Just one final drifting thought as the darkness pulled me under. If they hadn't gotten there in time, would I have even made it? My mom didn't always ignore me, but she never really believed me either. That's the part that's hard to explain, because from the outside, everything looked normal. We had a nice house, clean, quiet, the kind of place where nothing seemed wrong. My mom, Diane, I always looked put together, perfect hair, perfect outfits, always somewhere to be. Brunches, events, friends. She was the kind of person people described as busy and social. And me? I stayed out of the way, not because I wanted to, but because it was easier. Don't make things complicated, Sophia. That was one of her favorite lines, and over time I learned what that really meant. Don't complain, don't interrupt, don't need too much. At first it was small things. Mom, I feel kinda dizzy. You probably didn't drink enough water. Or, my arm feels weird. You were on your phone too long. Always an explanation. Always something simple. Something that made it my fault, or at least something not worth worrying about. And eventually, I stopped bringing things up, wouldn't you? But the symptoms didn't stop. Not, if anything, they got worse. A week before everything happened, I was in school. Just a normal day. Sitting in math class, trying to focus on something about equations that I didn't really care about. And then, the room tilted. Not dramatically, not like in movies, just enough. Enough to make me blink, enough to make me grip the edge of my desk. Are you okay? My friend Lily whispered. Yeah, I said quickly, too quickly, because even then, I already knew how it would sound if I made a big deal out of it. But then my vision blurred. Just for a second. And next thing I knew, I was on the floor. Not fully passed out, not unconscious, just down. Everyone staring, the teacher rushing over. Sophia, can you hear me? I nodded, embarrassed more than anything. They sent me to the nurse. Of course they did. And the nurse checked my pulse, asked questions, gave me water. You should probably see a doctor, she said gently, just to be safe. Safe, that word again. I nodded like I agreed, but deep down, I already knew what would happen next. And I was right. That afternoon, I told my mom. I fainted at school today. She didn't even look up from her phone. Did you eat breakfast? No. Well, there you go. That was it. That was the whole conversation. No concern, no follow up, no doctor, just dismissal. And the worst part? I let it go because arguing would have made it worse. Because she would have gotten annoyed. Because somehow I started believing maybe she was right. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just being dramatic. But then, a few days later, my left arm started going numb. Not completely, not all the time. I just, randomly, pins and needles at first, then heavier, slower, like it didn't belong to me. I remember sitting on my bed, staring at my hand, opening and closing my fingers just to make sure I still could, and thinking, that's weird. But I didn't say anything. Of course I didn't, because I already knew what she'd say. You're overthinking it. Get some sleep. Stop Googling things. So I stayed quiet. I ignored it. I adapted. I used my right hand more. I shook it off when it tingled. I told myself it would pass. And for a while, I almost believed that. Until the morning everything fell apart. Because that day, it wasn't just dizziness. It wasn't just numbness. It wasn't something I could hide. It was something my body couldn't ignore anymore. And neither could I. But even then, even when I hit the floor, even when I couldn't move, she still looked at me and decided I wasn't worth believing. When the operator picked up, I couldn't even say my address. That's the part that still gets me, because calling 911 is supposed to be the moment things start getting better, right? You make the call, you explain what's wrong, help comes, simple. Except, what happens when you can't explain anything at all? I remember the panic. Not loud, not chaotic, but sharp and quiet. The kind that creeps in when you realize something is very, very wrong, and you don't have control anymore. I can't, I had tried to say, but even that felt like climbing a wall. The operator had shifted quickly, asking yes or no questions, adjusting to me. She knew, before I even did, that this wasn't normal. And then she asked me something that should have been easy. What's your address, Sophia? Silence. Not because I didn't know it, but because I couldn't get it out. I could see it in my head. The numbers, the street name, the house, all right there, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. And was all that came out. Wrong, useless, broken. Okay, she said calmly, not missing a beat. That's all right. Stay with me. We're tracing your location. Tracing. That word stuck with me. Because it meant one thing. If this didn't work, if something failed, no one would find me. My grip on the phone weakened. It slid slightly against the tile again. I tried to adjust my hand, but my fingers didn't respond the way they should have. It felt like trying to control someone else's body. Or worse, half a body. Nyang, can you stay awake for me? She asked. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because the effort to even exist in that moment was overwhelming. My breathing grew uneven, too shallow, too slow. My chest tightened like something invisible was pressing down on it. And then, a shift. Not physical, something else, a realization. This wasn't just a weird episode. This wasn't dizziness. This wasn't something I could walk off or sleep away. This was serious, actually serious. And for the first time, I felt scared in a way I couldn't ignore. Not embarrassed, not unsure, just scared. Stay with me, Sophia, the operator repeated. Her voice was steady, anchored, like she was holding on to me through the phone. And then, faint, distant, a sound. At first, I thought it was in my head. But then it got louder. Sirens, real ones. They're coming to you, she said, confirming it. Relief should have hit me, but instead, everything started slipping. My vision tunneled again, darker this time, faster. My fingers stopped moving completely. My arm, nothing. My legs, gone. Keep your eyes open. I tried, I really did, but it felt like trying to hold on to something that was already gone. The world narrowed to a small circle, then smaller. Then, a crash, loud, violent. The front door. Voices rushed in, sharp and urgent. EMS! Where is she? Over here on the floor. Footsteps, fast, heavy. Hands on my shoulders, my arms, my face, everything happening all at once. She's cold. How long has she been like this? No idea. Caller couldn't communicate clearly. Left side's not responding. Possible stroke. Get her out now. Stroke. The word cut through everything. Even in that state, I heard it, and it didn't make sense. Stroke? That was something older people had. Not me. Not 15. Right? Hey, stay with me, one of them said, his voice closer now, focused, urgent. Sophia, can you hear me? I wanted to answer. I wanted to say yes. But my body didn't follow. They rolled me onto a stretcher, strapped me in, lifted me fast. The ceiling disappeared as they carried me outside. The sunlight hit differently now. Too bright, too sharp, too far away. Where are her parents? Someone asked. No one answered, because no one could, because no one was there. And that silence? It said everything. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens roared to life again. And as the vehicle sped forward, as the paramedic leaned over me, checking things I couldn't feel, I heard him say something to the driver. Something quiet. Something that wasn't meant for me. If we'd gotten to her any later... He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't have to. Because even without the ending, I understood exactly what he meant. I woke up, and half my body wasn't there. Not literally. But that's what it felt like. Like someone had taken the left side of me and just turned it off. No warning, no explanation. Just gone. The first thing I noticed was the ceiling. Bright, white, too clean. Hospital. The second thing? The silence. No sirens, no shouting, no chaos. Just a steady beep, beep, beep somewhere to my right. I tried to move. My right hand twitched slightly against the blanket. Okay, that worked. Then I tried my left. Nothing. Not even a twitch. My stomach dropped. Hey, easy. A voice pulled me out of it. I turned my head, slowly, and saw a man standing beside the bed. Doctor, late 30s, calm but focused. Hi, Sophia, I'm Dr. Patel. His tone was careful, measured, like he was choosing every word before saying it. That should have been comforting, but it wasn't, because people only talk like that when something's wrong. What happened? I tried to ask. The words came out slurred again. Not as bad as before, but not normal either. He noticed. Of course he did. That's okay, he said gently. Take your time. Take your time. Like time hadn't already almost run out. You had a medical emergency, he continued. You're safe now. Safe. There it was again. That word. But this time, it felt different. Because now I knew how close I'd come to not being. What was it? I asked, pushing the words out slowly. He paused, just for a second. But I caught it. You experienced what we believe was a minor stroke. The room didn't react. There was no dramatic sound, no shift in lighting, just silence. Because my brain didn't process it right away. A stroke? No, that didn't make sense. I swallowed. That's for old people? A small, almost sympathetic exhale left him. It's more common in older adults, yes, but it can happen in younger patients, especially if there are underlying conditions. Underlying conditions. More words. More things I didn't understand. But one thing was clear. This wasn't nothing. This wasn't dehydration. This wasn't being dramatic. This was real. And it had been building. For how long? Days, weeks. All those moments, the dizziness, the numbness, the fainting at school, it all clicked together at once. Like pieces of something I didn't even realize I was putting together. I started, then stopped. Because suddenly I didn't know how to finish that sentence. I told my mom. I tried to, more than once. Dr. Patel watched me carefully, like he understood there was more behind what I wasn't saying. You did the right thing calling for help, he said instead. Did I? Or did I just get lucky? What if I didn't? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Another pause. Another careful choice. If treatment had been delayed longer, he said slowly, the outcome could have been much more serious. Much more serious. That was his way of saying it without saying it. I could have lost more than just movement. I could have lost everything. My throat tightened, not from fear this time, from something else, something sharper, because suddenly, this wasn't just about what happened to me, it was about what didn't happen. No doctor visit, no checkup, no one taking it seriously, and most of all, no one helping me when I needed it most. Has your mother been contacted? Dr. Patel asked. I looked at him, then away. I don't know, which was the truth, because I hadn't seen her. Not before, not now, not at all. 4 days. That's how long I stayed in that hospital room. 4 days of tests, scans, questions. My physical therapy just to make sure I could move everything again. 4 days of nurses checking on me, doctors explaining things. And one thing that never changed, she wasn't there. At least, not at first. When she finally did show up, it wasn't what I expected. No panic, no guilt, just irritation. "This is getting blown out of proportion," she said to one of the nurses like I wasn't even in the room. I didn't say anything. I just watched, because something had shifted inside me. Something quiet, something final. And by the time I was discharged, by the time I walked back into that house, I already knew things weren't going back to the way they were. But I didn't know how much they were about to change, because 4 days later, there was a knock at the door, and this time, it wasn't someone I was expecting. 4 days after I got home, there was a knock at the door. Not a normal knock, not casual, not light, firm, controlled. The kind that makes you stop whatever you're doing and listen. I was sitting on the couch when I heard it, my left hand still slower than my right, still not fully back to normal. The house felt different now. Quieter. Not peaceful, just tense. Like something was waiting. The knock came again. 3 sharp hits. I stood up slowly, my body still adjusting, every movement reminding me of what had happened. And for a second, I hesitated, because something about it didn't feel right. "Are you going to get that?" My mom called from the kitchen, her voice irritated, like this was an inconvenience. Of course it was. Everything always was. I walked to the door, opened it, and immediately, everything shifted. And 2 people stood on the porch, a woman with a folder tucked under her arm, calm expression, professional, and beside her, a police officer. Not aggressive, not tense, just present. "Hi," the woman said gently. "Are you Sophia Lena?" My stomach dropped. "Yes, I'm Ms. Alvarez. I'm a social worker. This is Officer Grant. We just need to ask a few questions." Behind me, I heard movement. Fast. My mom. "What is this?" Diane's voice cut in sharply as she appeared in the hallway. Her tone had changed instantly. Not annoyed anymore. Alert, controlled. Ms. Alvarez shifted her attention slightly but kept her voice even. "We're here regarding a report filed by the hospital," she said, "about a medical emergency that occurred while Sophia was left unattended." Silence. Heavy. Immediate. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just stood there, feeling something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Not fear, not panic. Something steadier. My mom let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Oh, come on, this is ridiculous," she said. She fainted. It's not a crime. Fainted. That word again. Still, even now, Ms. Alvarez didn't react to the tone. "According to medical reports," she said calmly, "Sophia experienced a stroke and was unable to move or communicate effectively for a period of time." The word hung in the air. Stroke. This time, it didn't feel confusing. It felt solid, real, documented, undeniable. My mom crossed her arms. "She's fine now, isn't she?" The officer spoke for the first time. "That's not the point." Short, direct, and just like that, the balance in the room shifted. So for the first time, it wasn't just me saying something was wrong. It wasn't just me being dismissed. There were other people here now, people who had already seen the evidence. "We also have records showing multiple missed calls from the hospital," Ms. Alvarez continued, "and a delay in your response." "I was at brunch," my mom snapped. "My phone was on silent. I'm allowed to have a life." No hesitation, no apology, just justification. and something inside me finally clicked into place. Ms. Alvarez nodded slightly, like she'd heard that before. I understand, she said. However, when a minor experiences a serious medical emergency and is left without immediate care, it raises concerns about neglect. Neglect. That word landed differently, heavier than anything else, because it wasn't emotional, it wasn't dramatic, and it was official. My mom's expression tightened. This is being blown way out of proportion, she said. She's always been dramatic. She probably scared herself. And there it was, one last time. The same pattern, the same dismissal, the same version of me she had decided on and refused to let go of. But this time, I didn't shrink. I didn't stay quiet. I couldn't move. My voice wasn't loud, but it was steady, clearer than it had been in days. All three of them looked at me. I tried to call you, I added. I couldn't even talk properly. And you left. Silence, not the empty kind. The kind that forces people to sit in what was just said. My mom looked at me, her expression shifting. Just slightly. Not guilt, not fully, but something unsettled. You're exaggerating, she said, weaker this time. And that's when I realized something. She wasn't convincing me. She was trying to convince them. Ms. Alvarez made a note in her folder. Thank you, Sophia, she said gently. Then she looked back at my mom. Moving forward, there will be a formal evaluation, she explained. We'll also be conducting follow-ups to ensure Sophia's medical and personal needs are being properly addressed. Are you serious right now? My mom snapped. Yes, the officer said simply. No emotion, no argument, just fact. And just like that, there were consequences. Real ones. Not arguments, not dismissals, not brushed off moments. Actual consequences. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. Not all at once, but enough. There were meetings, assessments, questions my mom couldn't just wave away. My people paying attention in a way they never had before. Her friends found out, of course they did. Not the full story at first, but enough. And slowly, I noticed things shifting. Invitations stopped coming as often. Conversations got shorter, because it's one thing to ignore something privately. It's another when it becomes visible, documented, real, at home. Things were different too, quieter, but not in the same way as before. This time, it wasn't me shrinking, it was space, distance. I went to my follow-up appointments, physical therapy, checkups, and for the first time, I didn't rely on her to care. Sometimes a relative came, sometimes a family friend, sometimes just me and the doctor, and that was enough, because something had changed in me too. I stopped minimizing things. I stopped second-guessing myself. Stopped asking, what if I'm just being dramatic? Because I wasn't. I never was. The doctors confirmed everything. The condition, the symptoms, the warning signs that had been there all along. It had a name now, an explanation, a timeline, and most importantly, proof. Not that I needed it anymore, but it was there. One afternoon, after a follow-up appointment, I stood outside the clinic. The air felt different, clearer. I flexed my left hand slowly, still not perfect, but better, recovering, like me. And as I stood there, I thought about that moment on the floor. The silence, the door closing, the sound of the lock, and how close everything had come to ending right there. If I hadn't reached the phone, if I had given up, if I had believed, even for a second, meant that I was just faking it, I wouldn't be standing there. And that thought didn't scare me anymore. It grounded me. Because now I knew something I didn't before. Being ignored doesn't make something unimportant. Being dismissed doesn't make something unreal, and someone refusing to believe you doesn't make you wrong. I looked down at my hand one more time, opened it, closed it, steady. Then I started walking. Not back to how things were, not back to who I used to be, but forward, different, stronger, and finally, certain. Because that day didn't just change what happened to me, it changed what I would accept. Forever. And then, she stepped over me. Her shoe passed inches from my face. That moment stretched longer than it should have, long enough for me to notice everything. The polished heel, and the way she adjusted her purse on her shoulder, the faint smell of her perfume, like this was just another normal morning, like I wasn't even there. I'm meeting Karen in 20 minutes, she said, checking her phone. We already rescheduled once because of your headache last week. My headache. Right. Because that's what she thought this was. Something clicked in my chest, but not physically. Something else. Something quieter. Something worse. She didn't believe me. Not now. Not before. Not ever. I heard the sound of keys, the zipper of her purse, the door opening, and then the lock clicking shut behind her. Silence. Just like that, the house felt bigger. Empty in a way it had never felt before. I was alone. Actually, alone. And something was very, very wrong. I tried to breathe slowly, but my chest kept tightening. My vision flickered, like someone was dimming the lights inside my head. Think, Sophia. Think. My phone. It was on the counter. Too far. Of course it was too far. I dragged my hand forward. Or at least, I tried to. My right hand moved a little, scraping against the tile. My left? Nothing. Still nothing. Come on, I whispered, though it sounded broken. I pulled myself forward inch by inch. My body felt uneven, like half of me was working and the other half had just shut off. Every movement took everything. My elbow slipped. My chin hit the floor again. For a second, I just stayed there. What if I couldn't make it? What if I passed out right here? What if no one came back until tonight? The thought hit me like ice water. No, 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 no. I pushed again. Harder this time. My fingers stretched. I reaching for the edge of the counter. Almost. Almost. My hand slipped. The world tilted. I blinked hard, trying to stay conscious. You can't stop now. Not now. Not when you're this close. I tried one more time, one last stretch, and this time, my fingers hooked the edge. Relief flooded in so fast it almost made me dizzy. The phone. It was right there. I dragged it down, nearly dropping it as it hit the floor beside me. My hand shook as I tried to unlock it. The screen blurred. Numbers doubled. Focus. Just focus. I managed to tap. Once. Twice. Wrong number. Come on, I whispered again. Finally, the screen shifted. The keypad. 3 numbers. That's all I needed. My thumb hovered for a second, and then I pressed 911. The phone rang. Each ring felt longer than the last. And just as my vision started to fade again, someone picked up. 911, what's your emergency? I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come out right. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I might not be able to explain what was happening. Before it was too late.